Hello guys and girls, and welcome to another video lesson. Today is a super exciting day because we get to start into a new unit. We just took a test earlier this week over author's purpose and author's perspective, and now we are moving on to the topic of text structure. For the next 2 days, we are going to be doing an introduction on text structure, but before we get started, let's talk about our learning targets. Remember, learning targets, this is like our goal. This is what we're trying to accomplish throughout this unit. Our first learning target says, I can analyze a text to determine the text structure used by the author. So that just means you can read the text, you can break it down in your mind, and you can figure out what the text structure is. Our second learning target says, I can recognize how a particular paragraph, sentence, chapter, or section contributes to the text and its overall meaning. So that means you can look at specific parts of the text and figure out how they let you know what the text structure is. You might be asking yourself, I don't know what text structure even means. So let's talk about that. What is text structure? Text structure is the way that the author organizes the writing, and we're actually going to be talking about 5 of them. Some of these you've probably heard of before, and some of you may have not. But the first one is sequence. The next one is description. The next one you've probably heard before, compare and contrast. Then we have cause and effect, and then last but not least, problem and solution. Here's how this is going to work. For the next 2 days, we are going to be talking about these different text structures. Today, we're going to go over the first 3, which are sequence, description, and compare and contrast. And then tomorrow, we'll go over the next 2, which are cause and effect, problem and solution. Now, here's your job. As you are watching this video, there is a document that's posted on our assignment for today on Google Classroom, and this is what it looks like. It is called Text Structure Guided Notes Part 1. If you do not already have this open and on your screen, you need to pause this video right now and go to Google Classroom and open this document, because as you're watching this video today, you're going to have some different things that you have to do on this document. So you're going to follow along with me while we talk about this. You're going to be filling in some notes. We're going to be highlighting some things. So if you do not have this document open right now, go to Google Classroom and open this document. Okay, like I already said, today we are going to be talking about the first 3 text structures. We're going to start with sequence. Our directions say to complete this assignment by following directions that you are watching right now. Our first text structure is sequence. So let's talk about what that means. Sequence is a form of writing that is used if the author wishes to inform readers about certain topics by presenting information by listing events in steps or in a sequence, or by presenting information chronologically using order and time. So here's what that means. If the author is using sequence, they are either telling you steps, this is what you do first, this is what happens second, this is what happens third, or they are telling you events in chronological order. In social studies class, you probably get a lot of sequence, because in social studies you hear a lot of dates. So it'll say this happened in this year, and then the next year this event happened, and then the next year this event happened. So you see sequence a lot in social studies. Words that signal this type of text structure are first, next, before, and after. Now here's one of these places where you're going to have to pause this video and do some things on your note-taking sheet. It's because we're actually going to highlight here. So to use our highlighting tool, what you can do is you're going to highlight by clicking and dragging your mouse, and then you're going to go up here to this little button that kind of looks like a paintbrush. If you hover over it, it says highlight color, and you can use whatever color you want to, but I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to use yellow. And we're going to highlight those keywords. So first, next, before, and after. We want to make sure we remember those. An organizer, such as a timeline or a flowchart, may be used to sequence events or steps of the information being introduced. Now we have a little picture here. It tells us that we are talking about sequence, and it has our definition. It describes the events in order or explains the step one must follow to do something or to make something. And it gives us an example here. It's showing us the sequence that you can follow to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So first, you have to get your peanut butter and your jelly. Then you're going to get your bread. Then you're going to put your peanut butter on one side, your jelly on the other side. You're going to put your bread together, and then you're going to eat it. Remember, sequence tells you the events, the order that something has to go, or the dates, the chronological order. Let's look at an example of a passage that's written using sequence. It says, during the months from May to September, the loggerhead turtle comes ashore to nest at night. Now, we're going to use our highlighting tool again. So this is going to be one of those places where you're going to pause the video and kind of switch back and forth. And what we're going to do as we continue reading this is we're going to highlight any of these keywords: first, next, before, after. We have our first keyword here. It says, first, the turtle crawls out of the sea to the beach in search of the right place to build a nest for its eggs. Once the location is identified, the turtle digs a hole with its flippers that measures 8 inches wide and 18 inches deep. Next, here's another keyword, so make sure that you go back to your note-taking sheet and highlight that. The turtle lays around 120 eggs the size of ping pong balls. The turtle then covers the nest by throwing sand over the nest with its flippers. I skipped a keyword here. We want to highlight then. The turtle does this to protect the eggs from predators. Finally, there's our last keyword. The turtle makes its way back to the sea and does not return to attend to the nest. Now, here's what we're going to do. After each example passage that we read, there is going to be a graphic organizer that we're going to fill in together. So again, guys, you're going to have to make sure that you pause this video and go to your note-taking sheet on Google Classroom and do what I do on your paper. Anywhere that you see this on your note-taking sheet where it says type your answer here, we will be erasing that and filling it in with some information. Okay, so this is a good graphic organizer example that we might see with sequence. We're going to put what happens first, what happens second, what happens third, and what happens fourth. And this passage that we just read, it's talking about the steps that a sea turtle follows when it's laying eggs. And we've actually done some of the hard work here by highlighting some of these keywords. So for our first event, we're going to look up here. After the word first, it says the turtle crawls out of the sea in search of a right place to build a nest for its eggs. So the first event is the turtle crawls out of the sea. And again, just another reminder, you will need to pause this video and make sure you go fill in these notes on your own note-taking sheet. After the turtle crawls out of the sea, if we look up here, we are going to see, we actually need to fill in, oops, I erased, that the turtle digs a hole. So first, the turtle crawls out of the sea and digs a hole. After they dig their hole, the turtle lays their eggs. After they lay their eggs, they cover the nest with sand. And then the fourth event, the turtle makes its way back to the sea. And the fourth event, the turtle makes its way back to the sea. Okay, now this tells us that this passage is written in a sequence because it tells us what happens first, what happens second, what happens third, and what happens fourth. Make sure you do go back to your own note-taking sheet and fill in these notes. The next text structure that we're going to talk about is called description. Let's read up here what description is. Description is a form of writing that is used to describe the attributes and features of people, places, or items. Here's what that means. If a passage is using description, it's going to have a person, a place, or a thing. and it's going to describe it. It's going to tell us what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it does, where it is. It's going to describe. Usually in descriptive writing, the main topic is introduced, and then the attributes are included in the body of the paragraph. Words that signal this type of text structure are, we're going to highlight these. For example, first, second, and most importantly. Now you guys might notice that some of these, first and second, were actually also keywords with the sequence text structure. See, we have first here. So you have to be careful because you can't always just go off of the keywords because sometimes those keywords can mean different text structures. A graphic organizer such as a web may be used to map the individual characteristics or traits of the topic being introduced. You guys have probably seen webs before. I know we've used them in my class this year, but usually with a web you have a topic in the middle, and then whatever the passage tells us, you would have different branches that would describe that topic. For example, they have a fish in the middle, so you could put a branch about what a fish sounds like, what it looks like, an example, what it tastes like, what it feels like, and what it smells like. So let's look at an example of a passage that uses the description text structure. The loggerhead is a relatively easy turtle to identify. To begin with, the loggerhead has a reddish-brown upper shell and a dull brown to yellowish lower shell. The shells consist of an upper part known as the carapace and a lower section called the plastron. Hard scales cover the shells, and the number and arrangement of these scales are used to determine the species. The adult loggerhead weighs from 200 to 350 pounds and lives in temperate and subtropical waters. Another important fact about this turtle is it is the most common sea turtle that nests on the shores of the United States. In addition to eating small fish, the loggerhead sea turtle feasts on shellfish, clams, horseshoe crabs, and mussels. Unfortunately, the loggerhead turtle is classified as threatened. Okay, so remember, part of what we're doing is we're highlighting some things and then we're filling in the graphic organizers. So this entire passage was talking about the loggerhead sea turtle, and it was describing different things about them. So with our graphic organizer, what I have in the very center is the topic of the passage, which is the loggerhead turtle. Now, it gave us lots of different facts about the loggerhead, but for our graphic organizer, we're going to focus on two different things. The first thing that it talked about in the passage was its appearance, and it told us that they have a reddish-brown upper shell and a dull brown to yellowish lower shell. And if I go back up here to the passage, I can highlight that for you. It tells us right there in the second sentence. Now, it gives us other information about the loggerhead turtle, but the other thing that I want to focus on is its diet. So in the paragraph, it talked about some of the different things that loggerhead turtles eat. One thing it described was horseshoe crabs, and what we're going to do now is find two more things in the passage that it said that the loggerhead turtle eats. So if we go up, it's actually here towards the end. It tells us, in addition to eating small fish, the loggerhead sea turtle feasts on shellfish, clams, horseshoe crabs, and mussels. Now, to edit this particular graphic organizer, what you're going to have to do is double click, so tap on the picture, and then it will let you edit what's in these bubbles. So we know they eat horseshoe crabs, and we will say clams and shellfish. So I'm going to double tap. When you do, this should pop up, and where it says type your answer here, we are going to erase. We know that they eat clams and shellfish. And once you've typed those things in, make sure you hit save and close. And then you'll have your answers typed in. Now remember, it is your responsibility to make sure that this gets filled in on your notes. So you can go ahead and pause the video now if you have not already done so, and go fill in the graphic organizer on your notes. The last text structure that we're going to be talking about today is one that I think you have probably heard of before, and it is called compare and contrast. So let's read our description here. Compare and contrast shows how two or more people, places, or things are alike or different. Authors use descriptions of the items being compared to show the differences or the similarities. Words that signal this type of text structure are but, however, although, yet, similarly, on the other hand, while, and for instance. Let's go ahead and take our highlighting tool and highlight those keywords. A graphic organizer, such as a Venn diagram, may be used to depict the similarities and the differences. Now, I would almost be willing to bet all the money in my pocket that you all have seen a Venn diagram before. Remember, the Venn diagram is two overlapping circles, and on the outside, we tell how the things are different, and on the inside, we tell how the things are the same. Let's look at another example passage that is written using compare and contrast. The green sea turtle and the loggerhead sea turtle nest along the Atlantic and the Pacific shores in the United States. The green sea turtle is on the endangered list, while the loggerhead is listed as threatened. The green sea turtle eats grass, algae, and other vegetation and is classified as a herbivore. Unlike the green sea turtle, the loggerhead turtle is classified as a carnivore and eats horseshoe crabs, clams, and mussels. Sea turtles live in temperate and subtropical waters and tend to stay near the coastline. So here's our graphic organizer. Like we already talked about, this is a Venn diagram. And in this passage, we saw that it was comparing the loggerhead sea turtle and the green sea turtle. So with our Venn diagram, we have each side labeled. This side of our diagram is going to be about the loggerhead, and then this side of our diagram is going to be about the green sea turtle. Remember, in Venn diagrams, on the inside, you list the things that are the same. So this is one thing that loggerheads and green sea turtles have in common. They both nest on Atlantic and Pacific shores. The outside are things that are different. So on this side, we know that the loggerhead sea turtle is threatened and that the green sea turtle is endangered. Now what we're going to do on your notes is we're going to add one more difference, and it's going to be just like the Venn diagram that we just did for the description text structure. To edit this, you'll double tap, so click, and then you'll be able to type in your bubbles. But let's go back and see if we can find another difference between the green sea turtle and the loggerhead sea turtle. Right here it tells us that the green sea turtle eats grass, algae, and other vegetations, and it is a herbivore. So let's highlight that. That's the green sea turtle. And then the loggerhead sea turtle, we actually read this in another passage earlier, is a carnivore. They eat horseshoe crabs, clams, and mussels. So let's highlight that. So when we go down to our Venn diagram, on the green sea turtle side, we are going to fill in herbivore, and on the loggerhead sea turtle, we are going to fill in carnivore. So remember, you are going to tap, tap. The loggerhead turtle is a carnivore, and the green sea turtle is a herbivore. All right, save and close. And then you should see the changes on your notes. Now, before we finish up today, I do want to give you all a little piece of advice that I think will make your life a little bit easier in the future. If I were you, before I turned in this document on Google Classroom, I would make my own copy. So the way you can do that is you'll go to File, and then you will click Make a Copy. And then you can choose where you want it in your Google Drive. I can't exactly tell you where to put it because yours may look a little bit different than mine, but you can click OK. And then if you go to your Google Drive, you will have your own copy of these notes. This will be really helpful to hold on to so you can use them on future assignments in this unit. It'll help you to be able to go back and take a look at your notes. You also, if you wanted to, if you have a printer, you could print them. You can take a screenshot of them either on your phone or on your iPad or your tablet, but I would hold on to these so that you can refer back to them later. Once you have that done, you need to make sure that you go back to Google Classroom and you turn these in so that we have proof that you have done your assignment for today. If there's anything that you haven't filled in, make sure that you do pause this video and do that. And we will see you guys for part 2 of these text structures tomorrow.